Hello and welcome to episode 3 of Parched and Peckish.
Episode 3. We've done it. 3. Well, we haven't done it yet. Let's not. I'm jinxing us. But yes, this is number 3.
And today we're not going to be talking about a specific food from a specific place. We're going to be talking a bit more randomly about our experiences and with food we've found or food we've come across.
Drinks we found, I guess it's probably.
Yeah, probably more drinks, I guess. But we can talk about, I think we're going to talk about what's acceptable in as far as eating other people's food.
Right, yes. Stuff that you've discovered that is, and the links, you know, where is the line of decency? But I guess everyone's line is different, isn't it?
I think it is.
Yeah. And if you've been drinking, then potentially half a bag of crisps that someone has left.
Yeah,
depending
your
on your
standards
state,
might be lowered.
Might be.
Yeah. And we'll also have Jerry Seinfeld weighing in on this a bit later on.
Right. Well, that's quite the special guest.
Yeah.
We're moving up in the world,
Well,
obviously.
Yeah. You know, it's just someone I know.
Yes.
So, really, I think we should start with where this kind of idea came from for me.
Yes.
Which is a very special bottle of whiskey, and Nate and I, a long time ago, with my wife Claire, we were travelling home from a beer launch at a pub in Putney, and we came across a wrapped bottle of finest blended malt Scotch whiskey from Milroy's of Soho, and it was in the Milroy's bag, but it had been opened. So whoever this whiskey connoisseur was who bought this bottle of whiskey couldn't resist opening and sampling straight from the bottle, I presume, this bottle of whiskey, and then forgot it on the train and left it behind.
Unless he tasted it in the shop and then decided to buy it. I don't know, though they usually let people taste in there anyway, so that seems slightly less likely. I think your deduction is probably closer to the mark.
Yeah.
So you ended up with this bottle. I think I came out rather badly in that deal.
well, we were egging each other on a little bit. I was kind of I picked it up and you was, yeah, go on, take it. And I was like, oh yeah, but that's a bit odd. You know, someone else is drunk from it. We don't know if it's poisoned.
Yes.
Which is why I still have some left, actually, because I didn't want to drink too much of it in one go, in case.
I think it's
case
alcohol.
they didn't survive.
It'll have killed most stuff, unless it's like arsenic or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I haven't died, and neither has any of my friends or family who have tasted this.
You know, unless I tasted it on the night, and I still have it's coming back to me, but a foggy recollection of this particular discovery. But I don't know that I've tasted it since then, or if I've tasted it at all.
No, you haven't.
Well, then it's rather fitting that I'm here to taste some of it.
It is. So
why don't I pour a little there?
Yeah. Unfortunately, the cork is cracked and fallen in, but
it's not like it's fallen to bits, like with an old bottle of port or something like that, where it's gonna.
I think I was just a bit too vigorous with my unscrewing.
It can happen.
Do you want some water in that?
I think we should just do it like whoever drank it on the train. I think we should certainly have the first sip, and it be as if we were on that train sipping from the bottle, which I don't know. Claire would probably remember better than either of us would, whether we did have some of it or not.
I think it took me a long time to build up the nerve to even open the bottle.
Well, it smells like Scotch whiskey.
It does.
Quite peaty. There's some mead, sort of honeyed, little moss maybe. Tastes like Scotch too.
It does.
Yeah.
Now I think Milroy's are quite an established blending house. They've been around since 1964, and I think it's good quality whiskey.
Yes. I think the stuff that they do get in there is good. I've bought stuff in there before, and they tend to have bottlings of quite interesting stuff, their own bottlings of it, for less than you'd pay for sort of a big brand name whiskey of a similar quality, I would think. So it is really good for that. Though I haven't been in there in quite some time.
So it took me a long time to get into whiskey in general, and I think it was even, since I've had this bottle sat on my, in my booze area, that I've even developed a taste for whiskey. But
no, I'm gonna have to cut Sam off there. There's this, the slight irony of the booze area is it's kind of like a booze museum here at Chateau Hill. It's sort of spread out in various places, different bottles of beer, wine, port, spirits. It's quite, it is an interesting collection. You could sure spend time poring over the different bottles in their different little areas, but yeah.
And we've taken on some feedback we've been given, and we are planning a more organised or curated experience.
Yes, well that's good. I don't know who would have said anything like that. Would have made you change your ways like that. I don't know.
Well,
who would be so fastidious in assuming that they might have any sway in terms of how you lived your life.
Well, we're getting there. We take on feedback, in the way it's meant, in the positive fashion it's given. So back to the whiskey and back to this idea of, is it okay? What we're doing now, is it okay to pick up someone's leftovers on the train if it's whiskey?
Well, I would say yes. Whiskey, an open bottle, though. I guess it would depend. It would depend on the person. Some people might think if it was closed, of course, but if something's opened, then there is that suggestion that it might be tainted. It might have. I don't know how whiskey goes off, but that someone might have planted in there. If you've got those kind of sinister ideas running through your mind, an active imagination in that way, then it might occur to you that someone's poisoned it. But usually, I think, especially in London, the answer, or in the UK, the answer is more likely that it probably hasn't.
No.
Yeah. It's just someone having a few drinks, getting on a train and forgetting it.
Yeah,
which happens a fair bit.
So therefore, really, it's our duty to enjoy it.
Which we are,
because that poor soul has lost it.
Has lost it. I have a story of someone losing something on a train. A found food thing. It was a few months ago on a train back from Leeds, and I got on to the train, and there was a bag and box of Hotel de Chocolat on the table of this empty 4-seater, and I got in to some seats, 2 seats next to behind it, and thought, well, there's a bag there, so someone must be coming back, so I'll sit in these seats. Some time went by, and no one came back, and a few stations went by, and there was a guy who sat sort of across from me who also noticed these chocolates. So a few stops went by, and we thought, well, they've obviously forgotten them. Let's have a look. And so we had a look, and so it was quite a nice selection box. And I'd been drinking beer, so I thought, well, me and this other guy decided that we would sort of co-conspirators. We would start to eat this box of chocolates. I don't know. I don't want to, hyperbolize how many chocolates there were. There was probably about 16 or something like that, or 14. So I think we finished the whole box.
Wow, you were like kids on Halloween.
Yeah, it was. It was a little bit gluttonous. But it was unopened, and it was Hotel de Chocolat. And so I apologized to whoever forgot those chocolates. Was probably a gift for someone. Someone had been away working and came back with these chocolates with the intention of giving them to their sweetheart or loved one or child or friend, and we ate them. So I apologize if that was you.
I'm now picturing the two of you on the train, kind of like with chocolate all around your face, looking guiltily at each other.
Yes, well, it wasn't. We didn't smear too much of it into our faces. It wasn't that kind of childish delight with it, but there was some very good chocolate. So in that instance, an unopened box of high-end chocolates. We scarfed him.
Yeah, it's perfectly acceptable, I think.
Yeah.
I guess there's different aspects to this, and one thing which I often think of is when I'm in a restaurant, and it's a restaurant I love, maybe one which does small plates of tacos, for instance,
Yeah.
or pizza, or a huge pizza, and people are leaving the table next to you are leaving some of that food. Either they can't manage it or they don't eat it. Is it ever acceptable to lean over and go, if you're not eating that, can I have it?
I would imagine something like that in North America.
Right.
I don't know whether it fits the English sensibility to impose. Maybe in some smaller communities, but I don't know. And again, we keep coming back to this thing about having had a few drinks. If they're still sat there,
Yeah.
and maybe you started to chat with them, and you've built up a rapport, then maybe that's okay. Or maybe because you have rapport, you can sort of say, if they're kind of looking like they're full and, your food hasn't arrived, I don't know. I think you'd have to wait for some kind of signal from them to say...
Yeah.
And then if they said, hey, we're not going to finish this, haven't touched it, your food's taking forever or whatever, do you want to try? You can have some. And I've certainly done that. I did that in Israel.
Okay.
Someone was sat at a table next to us, and I was in Tel Aviv out for dinner in a place called Parched. It's a really nice restaurant, and these sort of sharing plates, and tasted some food that someone else had on. I think there was this couple out on a date or something like that, and they let me taste some of their food. And I think I can't remember if they left by the time, but we shared a bit of our food between the tables. So I think it certainly can happen, and it's, and I've done it before. So
Yeah.
it does occur. But I think it has to be more of a mutual consent thing.
Okay.
Like if they got up and left.
Yeah, that's my next question.
And
If
they
got
were
up
sort
and
of
left,
looking around to see whether there was any. And you just.
the waiters hadn't quite got there.
Again, it's the person and I think how much you've had to drink and how hungry you are.
Yeah, and how delicious the food is.
Yeah, well, or how delicious it looks,
Yeah.
or how hungry or how desperate you are to eat something right that second.
Yeah, yeah,
And the risk of being caught
yeah.
and the shame or
The shame. Yeah.
yeah.
I think as a British person, I might feel that more. I don't know. Would you feel shame?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would feel ashamed.
So that's one scenario.
Yeah.
Then what about the half-eaten
Couldn't I?
food item?
No, I couldn't. That said, and I don't know if it was eaten. This is my other found food story. I go back to when I lived in Canada, and we used to go out to a place called Nay Bay and drink when we were underage. It was this, you walk down this path to the beach, and it's where we used to go drinking on this beach. And we were out there drinking. I must have been 15 or something like that, and wandered into the woods to go to the bathroom or whatever, and there was some massive white disc. It looked like a huge mushroom, like, I don't know, like the size of a big pizza. And I was like, what is that? Is that a mushroom? And I reached down to touch it, and it was cold. And I thought, oh, that's weird. And I stuck my finger in it. It was ice cream. Someone had dumped a bucket, quite a big bucket of ice cream in the woods, and it was completely pristine. And I may have had a couple of small handfuls of it, but I was, young and drunk, and it seemed like a crazy, silly thing to do. So in that instance, I don't know, could have been adulterated in any number of ways. It was a huge blob of ice cream in the woods.
Still semi-solid?
Yeah, well, it had started to sort of melt out, but it wasn't liquid yet. It was still ice cream.
Well,
it was still reasonably, not like hard, but it was like you could scoop up a little bit, and it wasn't melting through your hand. It was quite an astonishing experience. Obviously, it stayed with me all these years.
Yeah, that's a fantastic find if you're really craving ice cream. But those are quite rare events, aren't they?
I think so. I don't know many other, except for the people that were there that had the same experience as me. I don't know anyone else that's found ice cream like still edible in the woods.
So
that you don't know who it belonged to.
yeah, without even being touched.
Yeah, it looked like someone had just upended it, and I don't know, like there was no bucket around, there was no evidence of who had dumped it, where it had come from, but it was there and edible.
That's the
when I came upon it,
the kind of event where you look for someone filming just in case, you know.
Yeah, it was. I don't know. It was the '90s and all that. And there were no camera phones. There were no one really had mobile phones. Really.
Yeah.
And if they were bricks, and they couldn't take pictures. You know, certainly not in the dark. Yeah.
If something's sealed, that's okay.
But sealed, yes. That's how I feel about it, because I've eaten it myself.
But if someone's taken a bite out of something, that's not.
I just don't think I could bring myself to do it.
Right.
You know, I don't think I could do it. No.
Well, that kind of brings us on to Jerry, who has some thoughts on this. So I'll just show you this clip and see what you think. In this episode of the sitcom Seinfeld, Jerry's neurotic friend George Costanza is helping clear up after a gathering when he finds a partly eaten eclair sitting in a bin. He picks it out and takes a bite just as his girlfriend's mother walks in.
You find yourself in the kitchen. You see an eclair in the receptacle, and you think to yourself, what the hell, I'll just eat some trash.
No. It was not trash.
Was it in the trash?
Yes.
Then it was trash.
It wasn't down in, it was sort of on top.
But it was in the cylinder.
Above the rim.
Adjacent to refuse is refuse.
It was on a magazine, and it still had the doily on.
Was it eaten?
One little bite.
Well, that's garbage.
But I know who took the bite. It was her aunt.
Well, you, my friend, have crossed the line that divides man and bum. You are now a bum.
So that is interesting, because watching that clip and seeing George look down into the trash can and seeing a near perfect eclair on a magazine, clean, with one little bite out of it. Because I don't like to waste food, I really have a thing about wasting any kind of food. I felt myself going, ooh, what a waste. You know, because I've done a lot of catering over the years, and so and worked in restaurants. And so working in restaurants is like you come back, and I've done that. Like you come back to the kitchen, and someone hasn't touched something, and you're having a busy night, and you're not making a lot of money or whatever. But in Canada, there was a term for going and eating something like that off someone else's plate, but taking it back to the kitchen and going, oh, I'm gonna eat that. I am so gonna eat that like tiger prawn or whatever it was. So I certainly did that working in restaurants, especially when I was younger, living in Canada and not making a lot of money. I definitely took plates of food and went, yeah, I'm having that. That's untouched. Or it had a bite out of one side of it, and it was funny. You seem to think that if you just took a knife or a fork and then cut that bit off as if it was like slightly adulterated, and if you moved that away from the rest of it, it was fine, because the bit where the bite was no longer attached to the rest of it.
So what you're saying is that really you have kind of a moral obligation to eat trash.
Yeah, I guess it is. It's a strange thing, because it's watching that made me think of it.
So we talked a bit about my extensive alcohol library.
Yes.
And one little corner under the stairs is dedicated to forgotten homebrew.
Oh, right.
So I thought I'd fish one out, and we can see what's happened to it.
Well, and I guess it's sort of in the mold of found things or forgotten things.
Yeah.
So I think it's a little bit tenuous, but I think it's just about there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You'll let me have that one. Okay. It could well be that actually this one was brewed with found hops.
Oh, because you did do that, didn't you?
Yeah. So my friend Steve, who's up in Walthamstow, who I brew with, he often walks around the reservoir and sometimes comes home with whole bushels of hops.
Gosh, wow.
Wild hops. So yeah.
I didn't know such things. Well, I imagine they grow all over, but to make a discovery of them.
Yeah, and it's about a month ago. I think it's September or October time when they're ready for picking.
Right.
So, but this one is from 2015. So the problem, as you know, Nate, is with beers which are hoppy, is that after about a year, you don't really have the same impact of hops.
No. You're getting some of that fruit ester there, though it's which I associate with sort of more modern IPAs as sort of a peach, apricot quality to it. It's faint. There's some nice sort of caramelization there. There's a really lovely thick foamy head on it.
Yeah, that might be due to a little bit of fermentation in the bottle going on. But
it's, there is almost a little bit of wild ferment. It reminds me a bit of some like Belgian sort of Peckish ever so slightly.
I've just remembered what the B stands for in the B IPA that's scrawled on the cap.
What's that?
Belgian.
There you go. So well, we've deciphered it.
We have. This is the problem with not keeping good records.
Yes.
We used a Belgian yeast for this.
Well, there you go.
And it's coming through, which is nice.
It is. It is very present. It's very drinkable, I think. There's nothing wrong with that at all.
Well, that's good because I found a few more bottles under the stairs with BIPA written on it. So I'm glad. But
this beer is excellent.
Oh,
I think this is wonderful, very drinkable. I have no idea what the ABV is on it.
I have no idea as well.
But I think it's really, really accomplished beer. Very, very drinkable. Nice complexity. But yeah, I'm just really, really enjoying it.
Well, thank you very much. I'm really pleased you said that because actually, I'm really pleasantly surprised. But
I think it's delicious.
Yeah. Well, there's plenty more different varieties of homebrew.
I know it's not quite on found food, but we're talking about foraging. We're talking about home brewing. We're talking about things made at home. But another sort of facet of this, maybe tangential facet of this, is food waste.
Yeah.
And we do see it's been in the news a lot, especially in the last couple of years, the amount of good food that supermarkets throw away. And I think the Evening Standard's done quite a big expose on it, and are trying to bring in legislation. I know the MP, Frank Field, has been doing a lot in his constituency to make sure that none of the supermarkets, they all sign up and they pledge to not waste any of their food, because they get all the numbers from all the supermarkets and finding out by supermarket who wasted what and how much of edible food was wasted in terms of, I'm not sure if it was in terms of tonnage, but I think it was something slightly obscene like that. So in terms of that idea of food and wasting of food, that there is a shift, and I might be wrong, but I think there might have even been some legislation in France that's been brought in to make sure that you're not. And with people struggling financially, families at the low end not able to feed their kids when they're on school holidays and stuff like that. So bringing in, and I think it's personally I feel quite strongly about it that we shouldn't be wasting any good edible food. There should be, of course, you don't want to make anyone sick, and I think that's what we've been doing. We go, well, but no one can get sick, and if it's slightly out of date, or if it's on the edge but still good, it just gets chucked in the bin anyways. And but
this whole food waste issue has come about because of this kind of sell by date, use by date, best before date, and people just used to use their noses and eyes to kind of work out whether they should eat something, or cut a bit off and eat the rest, and we're now relying on these kind of dates which are
these
printed on them?
completely arbitrary markings. Now, yes, you can tell when something starts to go, and that's how I deal with in terms of food in my fridge. I waste very little. Bones and things ends up in a frozen and then in a stock. Even if it's if I'm cutting the bones out of a pork chop to make like a schnitzel or something like that, I will cut the bones out of the pork chop and I'll put them in the freezer and I will boil them. So but maybe it's the way I grew up, but that I feel quite strongly about that. So I don't trust the dates, and most of the food in my fridge, the date's gone. Yeah. And it says used by, parsley or coriander or, whatever, a cucumber. And it says, eat by, and it's, no, I'll eat it until I can't.
Yeah. Well, a cucumber definitely tells you when you can't, doesn't it?
A cucumber is one of those...
When it's ready to drink.
When it's ready... Yes, that is definitely the point at which the cucumber has sailed.
Yeah. But cheese is one which I find amazing that, of course you can tell when cheese is edible or not. I mean, there's that bit at the edge where you're kind of...
Well, if there's a bit of mold on it, you just hack it off. It's not like it's infected the entire piece of cheese. You can eat it. So I think the yes, moving from the found food, but that the idea that we aren't trusting our own senses anymore when it comes to our food. We've been so sort of mollycoddled into trusting these dates and going, rather than sticking your nose in the remainder of your 2 pints of milk, you look at the date and you go, and you just chuck it down the drain. And it feels like there's more awareness around it now than there's probably ever been.
Wow, we got really serious.
We got so serious.
Oh my God.
Let's do some shots.
Okay. Well, actually, what we should do is my second bottle of homebrew.
Yes.
Now, this one's labelled LP. I'm going to take a guess.
It's a London Pale Ale, judging by the colour. It's not pale. It's very dark.
It's very dark, and the head came out a bit red earlier.
It's very red berries on the nose. It's boysenberry. Very dark fruit and cocoa. Licorice, that's what I got. I got a lot of raspberry licorice.
Yeah.
So
these are smelling good for their age. Considering I don't know what the age of this is.
And again, it's another delicious beer. And if we're talking about found food, and when we mean found food, we mean found beers under the stairs at Sam's house. But both of these beers are better than some beers that I've drunk from reputable brewers in the last few days. This is to have been lost and thankfully found. It's excellent. Very good.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm enjoying it too. But yeah, so we've covered a lot of topics in a very short space of time.
I think we probably can be excused for broadening out the subject matter. I think particularly on this episode, because it could be as broad, found food. It covers a whole range of stuff, and then like us, getting on to foraging, getting on to food waste. It's tangential, but I think hopefully we'll get away with it. We'll get away with it.
Yeah. They might not notice.
They might not notice.
Okay. So we've been Parched and Peckish. You can get in touch with us at Parched and Peckish on Twitter, and come and check out the website at parchedandpeckish.com, where you'll find a whole ream of information and notes and news stories and links and things like that to do with the episode which you've just listened to.
Yes, and thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Okay, bye.